Well, God says that his people, the church, grow not just as we hear God's truth being taught to us, but as we speak God's truth into each other's lives. And so we're going to hear now a few reflections from different people on the truth we've heard this evening. And I really hope it will help us all to think about how what God has said to us impacts us personally.
The fact that we're even having to think about this and choose demonstrates that there's a big problem.
But it is so difficult. It's really hard. I think half the time we don't even realise that we are being double-minded. And so perhaps we think we're just embracing God's good gift towards us, such as jobs, relationships, responsibility, but not realising that perhaps they are becoming idols.
And sometimes I think I can fool myself into thinking that it's necessary to be friends with the world, to love my non-Christian brothers and sisters better. But James calling this out as double-mindedness, sitting in both camps, quickly forces us to pick our allegiance and to know where our attitudes and values should come from.
Earthly wisdom is described as demonic. It's just really quite like, obviously, a stark contrast between serving God.
I feel that it can be too easy for us to lose sight of the special blessings that God has given us through the church and how he has designed it to nurture us and protect us and to make us more like Christ. But as with anything, there can be a temptation to slack off, to avoid the difficult parts, or to rationalise doing things that we should reject.
I think maybe one of the reasons why it can be tough to serve the church over serving ourselves could be maybe we just haven't really understood that connection between loving God and serving his people.
It's just helpful seeing how serving God and serving the world is defined as serving the church or serving self, because I think we would all say, oh yeah, I serve God, if you're a Christian, but actually that looks like serving the church, and that almost seems more challenging. Doing Zoom coffee after church, like I know often I can just finish church and just think, oh, I'm too tired or something, or I'm wearing pajamas, but it's actually so helpful to others, I think, to just make that effort and talk to people and chat after church.
The areas where we find it hard to serve the church could depend on our personality or our gifts or our income or our friends or our family. Perhaps we're more hesitant to serve our brothers and sisters when there's a tangible cost or when something looks like a thankless task, if we let ourselves forget that God sees all of our works.
I find it most tough to serve the church when things of the world are distracting me and I feel that they require my attention more. It can make serving almost take a backseat in terms of priorities until I realise the need to shift the dependency on myself to God and his word.
So we can live wholeheartedly for God, knowing that God gives more grace to double-minded people, so people like us. The fact that God draws near to us as we draw near to him, just shows us that he gives us the strength that we need to live this countercultural life, where we're not looking out for ourselves, where we're not chasing after worldly things. But yeah, he gives us more grace, and as we come humbly and as we come repentant, that he will lift us up and he will exalt us.
We're reminded that Christ has already won the victory over sin and death, that God is gracious, and that his grace increases with our need for his grace, and that we are forgiven completely. The passage is also giving us stern warnings against returning to our old ways of self-centeredness. It ends by showing us the glorious conclusion, with Christ exalted and enthroned in splendour, sharing his glory with his redeemed church in the new creation.
And I'm so glad for that last bit about grace, because it just seems so hard and so impossible. But it's just so encouraging that any amount of sin that we've done, God's grace is more. And I am enabled to live in an unselfish way. And I know it's not going to happen overnight, but it's that commitment to serve God and not self, and that commitment to serve others and not self. And like God will help us in that. Yeah.